Hello and welcome to the Parents Guide. This is where you'll find out what's going on in schools and hear some of the key issues being discussed from the parents' point of view. If you have school-aged children, this programme is for you. We'll be focusing on English and maths in primary schools with two parents, Amanda Blinkhorn and Stephen Blanchard.
Hello.
Hello.
We're also joined by education consultant Bill Davis, who has a great deal of experience in primary schools.
Hello.
We've been looking at some programmes from Teachers TV and we'll be showing some extracts during our discussion. These programmes were made for teachers, but they also open up a window for parents to look into classrooms and see what's going on in schools today. In the first programme, we see how literacy is taught at Blue Gate Infant School in Tower Hamlets, London. Here, a reception class is learning to read using the basic structure of sounds and words called phonemes.
I want you to hear the middle phoneme, the sound in the middle. Not the beginning, not the end, the one in the middle. Okay, ready? Let's have mug. Hand up. Mariam. Very good, that's excellent. Can we all say Okay, good, lovely. So it's mug. Let's say it. Mug. Excellent. That's the middle phoneme. Now, Teddy's going to say a word, but he's not going to say the whole word. He's only going to say the separate sounds. And you've got to work out which word he's saying, so you've got to be really clever. S, U, A, G. What is it? What is it? Somebody who hasn't had a go yet. Tasnima.
Slug.
Is she right?
Yes.
Slug. Let's see if you can all do that with Teddy. Are you ready? You ready with your arms? Ah, G. Slug. Excellent. How many phonemes was that?
Four.
Now you're going to show me how really clever you are. We're going to read some of these words. This one. Hug. See if I've got a tricky one for you.
Stephen, what did you think of that lesson and more importantly, did you know what a phoneme was?
I was more or less aware of what it meant. I suppose it's a sound, individual sound, but it seems very, very similar to what we did when we were at school, sort of sounding out words, breaking them into sounds. We didn't call it phonemes, but it was the same sort of thing. But I suppose they're more conscious of what they're doing.
Amanda, did you feel that that was something you understood immediately, the use of the concept of a phoneme?
I'd never heard of a phoneme before, so I didn't know what it was. But I think, like you say, the instinctive thing is just the same. It is when you're learning to read or helping someone with reading, you break it down to those sort of sounds.
Stephen, as a parent, are you aware of the balance between reading words technically and getting meaning from them, which is a sort of ongoing debate in the teaching of English, or certainly in an early stage?
Yes, it's quite easy for children to sound out words or know how to pronounce words, but not actually. They have to put them in the context of a sentence or a book. They have to, so that the meaning rolls on and that it tells a sort of story.
Bill, are you worried that it could be taught too phonetically and that children would be deprived of the meaning of language?
Definitely not. I think that teachers have had hundreds of hours of training and they understand the need for balance in exposing children to a range of opportunities and develop skills, a range of skills, so that they can actually apply those as they actually develop their understanding of the importance of language and the pleasure of reading and communicating. I think I agree with you that all of these strategies and aspects of the teaching of reading need to be put into context, into real life context, to give pleasure and meaning to what children are learning, the skills that children are learning.
Amanda, underlining these various strategies have always been the use of reading schemes, which some parents like a lot because it gives them a progression for their children, doesn't it? I mean, what do you feel about reading schemes?
I think, from my experience, I think kids quite like it because they're quite competitive and they quite like ticking things off. Or maybe That's just me, but I quite like the idea of having gone through something.
Stephen, do you remember a reading scheme when you were at school?
I remember the Janet and John books. They were
And?
pretty dry.
Amanda, do you remember Janet and John fondly or not?
I remember, the only thing I can remember about learning to read is that it was a Ladybird book, and I got so frustrated at not being able to read this word that I scratched it out of the book.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but I don't think it was anything to do with that particular story. It was the word here, H-E-R-E, and I just remember not being able to get my head around it at all. So I thought, right, gouged it out.
Yeah.
I don't know
I think
what that means.
I think that schemes of the reading schemes have been developed and are no longer perhaps as dull as they were. They reflect real life often, and they have stories in them that children can relate to. And also they reflect the multicultural aspect of our society, and which many children are not aware of because they attend schools which are monocultural.
That's an important point, isn't it? Because the reading scheme can, in a way, be responsible for other kinds of education, not simply about literacy, more about inclusion and things. Is that your experience?
That's true, yes.
Well, it's a long way from Janet and John anyway in the Ladybird books, and in the next clip we're going to go back to Bluegate Infant School to see a guided reading session led by literacy coordinator Leisha Jones.
We're saying to them all the time, OK, it looks right because they're really good decoders, but does it sound right? Is it good English? Have you looked in the picture? Look at the... Is there anything in the picture that tells you? What is it? Look at the cottage. Have you heard that word before, Imran? Does that word look right? All through the school we do running records. Now that's looking exactly at what the child's reading behaviour is. Mark down on the page what the text said, what their response was. Are they cross-checking? Are they looking at the word? Are they getting stuck on a word and then looking at the picture to see if they're right? It does, doesn't it? Can you go back and check it for me? Good boy.
I think one of the key features you need in a successful school is that they track their pupils' progress rigorously. They know who's making appropriate progress and they know who's not, and they do something about it early.
I like the way you said the first word. Let's look at parts. In a beautiful... Good boy. How do you know it says beautiful? Good boy. So you looked at parts of the...
No.
Well done, Imran. Lovely big voice. Good. And what did we say that was? That was the
Middle.
Good boy. Lovely reading.
Amanda, what did you think of that? Did you think they were enjoying their reading lesson?
They seemed to be, didn't they? And it was so impressive watching her being so on the ball to see what they were doing and describe what they were doing and praise them when they were stumbling, and always reminding them of the technique, so that the point wasn't necessarily to get each word right, but that the process was what mattered, and the fact that you could work it out if you had another go. I thought it was amazing to watch, actually.
Explain what guided reading is to us. Many parents might not understand what was going on in that lesson.
It's an opportunity for a teacher to work with a group of children where they have a single text. They share. There may be 8 children in that group, or 5 children. They will have the same book, and they will read together. And sometimes they'll actually read the book aloud and take it in turns and around the table.
So that's a different strategy to the other ones we've talked about, phonics and books. So what's the advantages of guided reading?
Well, children actually learn from each other. They have the opportunity to listen to each other and see how each other model the strategies that they've been taught at an earlier stage. But it also provides an opportunity for them to talk about the context of the story and the context of the words, and to perhaps pause and say, well, what does that word actually mean in that sentence? And how does that sentence relate to another? And that's the joy of actually sharing literature with each other, and sharing the excitement and the pleasure in actually saying, well, did you enjoy that story? And engage children in having opinions about literature.
So that's an interesting idea, isn't it? Reading is a sort of social activity rather than a solitary one.
You know, like Belle says, I think they do learn from each other because they, you know, they're that much closer to it. And if one's a little bit a step ahead, it's not such a daunting process. If you can see someone else getting a little bit further and then stumbling, that, you know, you can see what's possible.
But that might affect, for example, the way parents might read with their children if they knew that there was a different, more social way of doing it in school. Do you think it would help for parents to be told a bit more about guided reading, for example, since it's obviously quite a popular strategy now these days?
Well, it is. If you think about adults and book clubs, you think about the Richard and Judy syndrome and the impact that they've had on adults enjoying books. That's what's happening in classrooms on a daily basis.
But many parents may not know that.
That's regrettable. It doesn't take a great deal of effort to offer that to parents.
Stephen, do you think the term guided reading is a bit too technical for parents to understand?
It is, yes. I didn't understand what it was before I saw that clip and Bill explained it. But it's very similar to the way parents read to their children at home.
I think the jargon is a bit of a turn-off, actually, because I never really think of it in terms of the technical explanation, and I would never talk about guided reading.
No.
Can I just say that I think that one of the key things is that underlying that pleasurable experience is a very serious educational agenda, an agenda of assessment, of engaging with children, and really using that information and recording it after the event to track pupils' development in reading. So I think it's very important that it's not just perceived to be fun.
Well, now we're going to look at some slightly older children, and we're going to go up a stage to Year 6 and see how boys are catching up with the girls at Ardley Green Junior School. In the extract, we see Louise Bartlett's class and a debate about fox hunting.
The following people are for fox hunting. Adam is a dog breeder, Matthew the fox hunter, and Race Farmer Jones.
What tends to work particularly well with boys in getting them to speak is getting them to speak in role. So if they're not actually having to speak as themselves, expressing an opinion or an emotion, if they can do it through being a particular character or through being an interested party, then they're much more willing to put themselves on the line.
Matthew, why are you for fox hunting?
Because there are thousands of foxes out there in the world, and fox hunting is a very interesting sport. And plus, it doesn't harm the foxes because it's only a little bite on the neck from the dogs.
How do you know it doesn't hurt them? You're not being bitten on the neck by a dog.
Thomas, why are you against fox hunting? I'm against it because the foxes, that it's just stress for them, and also it disturbs the wildlife and nature. And the most important thing it disturbs is me. I hate it.
The other children are asked to comment on the performance. It doesn't take long with other classmates as your critic saying, well, actually, I don't think you got anything done because you didn't use your time very sensibly, before they actually think, no, we want to be praised by our classmates.
Now, you've seen both sides of the argument. Now it's your turn to decide. Should fox hunting be banned?